Hey y'all, it's Lena with What's Poppin USA, the Small Business Support Network, and welcome back to What's Poppin USA, where we talk small business. Y'all, this week I have the pleasure of speaking to Ms. Megan up in Connecticut. Y'all, I met her back months ago when we did the giant pop-up over the Black Friday weekend at Lyman Orchards, and she is an artist and she does all of her stuff in watercolor, and it is so amazing. Once I go ahead and I show you these, you're going to be like, there's no way, absolutely no way. And if that's not super cool, she's an herbalist, and I call her the Bone Whisperer. Y'all, let's go ahead and talk to Megan. Let's talk some small business. So y'all, as promised, I have the Bone Whisperer here. Miss Megan up there with Herbal Bones Art up in Connecticut. Megan, have you gone out up there yet, honey?
It's warm here today, unseasonably,
Ooh.
and felt like -18 last weekend, and now it's 60. So quite the swing.
Enjoy
New
it.
England.
It's gonna change.
I don't like it like this.
Yeah, I know. Well, has that hampered your scavenger hunts these days? Because I know you go on wooded treks.
Yeah, I haven't been out in the woods too much of late, but
Mhm.
honestly, the bones still find me,
Whether the
without going to
elements are bad or
whether I'm trying to look for them or not.
so tell everybody exactly what that means. Because I called you the Bone Whisperer. And so we know from like TV and stuff that that means that you're speaking to them and maybe them to you and calling to you. And that might be
Mhm,
a little unsettling for some people watching this. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you do with these bones once you
mhm.
find them.
Yeah, it's really hard to pick a starting point for a story,
Mm,
because you pick a starting point and then you back up a little bit. Oh, well, it kind of started a few years
there
before
do.
that, or it's all interweaving constantly. And when you pick up on a thread, it's hard to figure out where exactly it began. Um,
So when did you first start collecting bones? Were you little? Were you like the little kid who had when mom went to wash the clothes or grandma went to wash the clothes, you open the pockets and like all this stuff fell
no,
out of your
I was,
pockets? Like,
when I was little, I did, well, I guess let's start with a very broad, um, where I'm at now. I feel like I have two main purposes, which that's where I am now. It could evolve, and it always is evolving. But one is to help people become more comfortable with death, with all forms of death that we go throughout our lifetime, to the big death, because in our society, we have a very big disconnect with what that is, and you're thought of as weird or strange, because if you work in that sort of field,
right,
because we have so much discomfort with it.
right.
Another purpose is to help people realize that they have everything that they need inside of them already. They don't need to be constantly seeking for validation and information externally, continually taking programs and going to see, mentors
Tony
or
Robbins,
healers. Like,
Dianetics.
yep, everything is already there if you pause and, like I was saying, pick up on all those threads that are weaving together throughout your life. Um,
That's
as a kid,
powerful.
I was outside all the time. I loved being outside, barefoot especially, and,
Even now, I don't have any socks or shoes on right now.
I don't either.
I got nothing.
And, I was making up stories all the time. I was in adventures out, outside in my own world, in my own stories. And my parents realized that I liked to draw and to paint and to be creative. So
Mhm.
in around 4th grade, they put me in art lessons, which happened to
Mhm.
be watercolors. And so I've been painting with watercolors since I don't know how old you are in 4th grade.
That's why, because your watercolor skills are impeccable. Oh my goodness.
People are amazed that they are watercolors,
It looks
'cause
like marker.
you
Paint.
expect, washes when you think of watercolors, and these
Very
are very
light, faint, faded out looking, but yours
yeah.
are so vibrant and so eye-popping that
Mhm.
it doesn't look like watercolor at all.
I meant to have something on hand,
Yeah, sure.
but it's right
Y'all,
here.
so I'm telling you, when I first met Megan, they see there she is. When I first met her, she had all of her paintings up and strung up all around her booth at Lyman. And y'all, it looks like it looks like a marker, that like those paint markers that kind of fade out a little bit like that.
Mhm.
But I watched her. She was over there sketching and doing her thing, so I can attest that that is actually watercolor, and it's so amazing. I'm like still enthralled by that because
I
as a
still have yeah,
artist.
I still have my same palette from you know, when I was in high school, I think. I st
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So I'm sorry to stop your journey. So here
I know.
you are as a
So,
child in your
yeah, and, so I kept practicing. I went once a week, and
so was it like outside of school?
it was, yeah,
Okay.
it was like my extracurricular activity. I
Mm,
didn't do sports. I did dance.
gymnastics and that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I did dance, but I didn't do, sports,
right.
and then, so I went once a week, and, Mr. Carney, the artist who was teaching,
Shout
um,
out to Mr. Carney.
he, he loved big band music, and he had all these records, I'm gonna date myself now, that he was transferring over, I think it was to tape. And he would play them. He would play them, and so I still have this great love for that
Big
style
band
of
music,
music, big
right.
band and swing and all the
When
big
you
things.
paint, do you listen to that?
Someti actually, now I just listen, to, the Lord of the Rings extended versions on just
Repeat, if you
constantly.
will. Mhm,
That also has a long, Tolkien's works have a very long thread in my life, as well. And then I was in another art lesson, which was graphite, pencil,
mhm,
in high school,
yep,
and, Indiana Jones, and I wanted to be an archaeologist, and I had a love of the outdoors
right.
and rocks, and so I considered applying to RISD, Rhode Island School of Design,
Mhm,
and I didn't really know much about pathways for artists, and
right.
I didn't want to be somebody in marketing or graphic.
I was about to say when we grew up, I think we're almost around the same age. I have a lot more gray than you. When I entered school, it was 1990 into college, and I was gonna say I didn't want to be in advertising and marketing. I'm not that cutthroat chick. I'm not gonna step up the corporate ladder and step on other people. That's just
Yep.
not my. I don't want a cubicle. I don't
Yeah.
want that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want that. That's stifling.
So yeah, I didn't even apply, and,
Right.
I ended up, going to school for anthropology because you can't actually study, archaeology until you're in your PhD track. It's,
Really?
yeah, archaeology is
Uh,
one of the 4
a
facets
specialty.
of anthropology.
Mhm.
So, I started my undergrad degree in, anthropology,
Mhm.
and, I wanted a second degree as, to support, that
Right,
work, also kinda
right.
give me a little bit of an edge, but also kinda like a backup plan sorta thing.
Why do you sound like me? Oh my god. I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take this, but I'm also gonna take a double major in this," because so, for example, I was in art. I switched over to I was art. Okay, no, I was medicine at first. I was a biology major. Then I was just like, okay, inorganic chemistry sucks. I can't do this. Move on. So I went to art, graphic design, illustration. Then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with an art degree? But I've got all these credits in it and I've been rocking it. So then I transferred schools and I was like, okay, I can speak Spanish. So I was Spanish degree with an education second and then a minor in graphic design. And because I was like, okay, I could speak Spanish, but what am I just going to go up and speak Spanish to people all day? I have to have something with it to
Right.
like round it out. So that's
Mhm,
why I chose the education. And then
mhm.
a kid threw up on me in school when I was doing an internship, and I said, forget the education part. And now I just speak Spanish. So, so I did all of that and just, but anyway, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens.
Um, yeah, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do geography or geology, and I ended up doing, a BA in anthropology and a BS in geology. It was a lot of work.
Yes.
I did well in chemistry, but, physics and calculus, not so much. Um, and then I took a year off and I started a master's program in archaeology. My intent was to go on for my PhD. I was very interested in becoming a forensic anthropologist.
Ooh.
And I think this is where part of my calling started to come in, but I didn't
Mhm.
I
I
didn't
can see
realize it
that.
for a very, very long time. As a kid, I did see ghosts, and I completely blocked it out because it scared me. And I didn't know what to do with that or,
So what do you do with it? Because I see them sometimes too, and it's a little unnerving.
yeah, so more
Do you see other
recently,
people or do you see your family members?
um I've only begun to start seeing more recent dead recently. I do psychopomp work. I have formal-ish training, which is an aspect of shamanic practitioner,
Mm.
where you help the dead cross over. Um,
And
so
I think I had a issue with that with my father and my best friend. They moved from the house that I was in to the house that I'm with me now, and I'm like, "Y'all gotta go, like, I don't know. No,
yeah,
you can't follow me. Why are you still here?" And somebody said that to me, that they thought they had a problem with they didn't know they were dead yet. They
yeah, no,
crossing over.
yeah, especially
They're
if
house hopping with me.
if they died in a traumatic way or if they have
Yes,
some sort of unfinished business, that's
yes,
why they're stuck. And
yes.
for, a long time, only it was really only, like, much older stuck entities that I would, facilitate crossing, and also animals,
Oh, really?
and it was only really much more recently that more recent dead have started to show up for help.
Wow.
And I think that was my own evolution in accepting, that this is not weird as most
Right,
people, think.
right.
This is not a mental illness. This is not something that's strange.
Oh,
It's a
no,
part
no,
of us that
no, no, no.
no, I know you know that,
Yeah,
but that was something I had to, you
it's
know,
deal with yeah.
sit with and
How it's received is different,
right.
you
And
know,
and we are going through an evolution where people are becoming more accepting of these things, so
because
that
they're
is helping
finally
my
starting to
own
be
comfort.
transparent,
Yeah,
finally. Well, a little bit anyway.
yeah. So, anyway, just going back, I was interested in becoming a forensic anthropologist, and it was a very specific interest in mass burials where, mass grave sites where the individuals were unnamed.
Do you have a connection, culturally?
No, it wasn't a, specific sort of, it was just anywhere that a mass grave site might be.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's more to, a desire to witness and, give not necessarily, I don't wanna say names, but I identities to people who
Validate?
were, unceremoniously,
Right,
dumped in a hole.
right.
Um,
I was just wondering if it was, if it was like a cultural thing, like, Jewish, so you were pulled over to Germany, you know what I mean? Like, is that or
yeah,
you're pulled to certain
I mean, I have, aside from the, interest in big band and swing music, I have a
Mhm.
very strong, I don't know, connection with the World War II era. I don't know why exactly at
Have
this
you ever done
time.
an Ancestry.com to just see?
So I don't really have much information on my mom's side. On my dad's side, we
Mhm.
have our, lineages, traced back, and we're, you know, from the United States for a few hundred years, or a couple
Oh,
hundred
okay.
actually. Yeah, yeah. Um, but, my mom's side, I think, as well, there isn't, I don't think there's any immigration in the last 150 years at least.
You'd be surprised though what you may even if you just go on there on the free version and just type in names and start
Oh,
putting
yeah, no, I think it's more of a karmic or a soul connection as opposed to ancestral.
Mm,
Mhm.
I got you.
Yeah, and, I was thinking about it, I think there are a lot of people who have, a strong interest in that era, and I think just so many people died in traumatic ways,
Mhm.
that the people who have been born after then, um, it makes sense that parts of us may, have been reincarnated
I
from
was
that.
just about to oh my god, we are right there. I was about to ask you if you thought that any of that if we've been reincarnated,
Mhm.
the further I go in life and the more I really listen to myself and I start paying attention to how I think and the things that I think and I start thinking like why am I thinking this way or why am I always hyper focused on this and I always get this feeling like in a past life this particular thing was important to me or I had a lot of this or something in my past that is resurging that's familiar and I don't know
Right.
why and I can't put a finger on it.
Yeah, and,
Now people are gonna
recognizing
be
that
like,
is
"It's
important, and
weird,"
it's not
but
necessarily important to know where it comes from, just,
right.
integrating and
Mhm.
acknowledging. Um, I Part of some of the other services that I do, is a distance healing service, and then also in person in Connecticut, at the Center for Higher Living in Berlin. Um, I offer a combination of master Reiki practitioner and crystal healing practitioner services, and it opens up, the soul records to facilitate healing if you're in a holding pattern in your life that it could have been from earlier in your life. It could have been something from a past life that hasn't been fully integrated yet. So this process helps you to move through those.
Is it something like okay, so let me put my thinking cap on because I know I'm gonna say this all wrong. So, in a past life, not to be funny, a few years ago, I actually was in school at the Atlanta School of Massage, and I was going to these, like, extracurricular activity classes, for one of our instructors, and he was doing let me get it right, like myofascial
Mhm.
I
Massage.
don't wanna say what was the last word, like, that was
Myofascial massage?
yeah, yes. So, it was like he would put your hands on you and, like, I have a scar on,
Mhm.
my arm from playing ball in Stratford in the house, and I was playing ball in the house, and I ran and put my arm through the window, and
Mm.
I came back. And so, as a child, that's really traumatic,
Yeah.
And so as I was on the table and he actually went over my arm, I just remember just starting to just bawl and cry. And I'm like, I don't know where that
Mhm.
came from, but it was the strangest just release of like,
Yeah, I mean, something like that, especially as a child, it's hard to integrate and process what it is that happened and what's going on.
mhm,
So,
like I got
that was
goosebumps
your
now.
ability to yeah, that was your ability to finally process, what that was. So,
Mhm,
I don't actually do myofascial, it's
right.
more, crystal placement on, specific crystals in specific points on the body to facilitate, something
Like
similar.
the flow, right, to get it
Yeah,
moving.
yeah,
It's like your
so,
chakras are blocked. Is that what you would say? Yeah.
it's more tapping into all space lines and timelines, kinda going
Oh,
through wormholes as opposed to direct connections in the body, um, and just
which
speaking about
do like
yeah, just speaking
work
about, like,
with
strange, like, you feel like this is from a past life and you're not sure what it's from. I
right,
have a very strong distaste for cigarette smoke. Just it
mm,
really
just right,
bothers me for some
right,
reason. I did not grow up in a household where people were smoking.
right,
I mean, my grandparents smoked when I was a kid, but it wasn't like I was there all the time.
right,
It just didn't make any sense to me why I
right.
had such a strong aversion. And in one of these sessions on myself, I reintegrated a past life death or trauma that I had died on the operating table during like open heart surgery because I was a smoker.
Oh, what? So it just kinda
It's like, oh, this
infiltrated
is why
right
I don't
into
like
it, so
cigarettes.
makes sense.
Yeah,
That is pretty cool, though.
right. And it was also part of that work was processing that,
Yeah.
in integrating that so that
Now it's not immediate, though. It's not like you have, like, an epiphany, be like, "Oh." It's something
right.
you have to work on.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily something you have to work on, but it does kind of cause a little bit of an exacerbation or an intensity of um like symptoms. Like if you have anxiety, your anxiety might get worse for a little
Right.
bit, or any behavior patterns.
Oh, 'cause it conjures that up? Is that why?
Yeah, but it's because it's moving through you and
Mhm.
processing.
Right,
So like a past life trauma or death or something from childhood, maybe like crying like that, or maybe you are crying, just integrating and grieving for parts of yourself that never fully
right.
grieved. Um, or you get really angry about something suddenly
And
that you
you
hadn't
don't
thought
know.
about in years,
Right.
and it's just takes.
I do. I have weird stuff, and it has to do with, a lot of, I'll say body dysmorphia, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, so my I'm like, "It's probably way TMI," but,
Oh,
so
it's unfortunately the norm in our society.
right? But so I'm biracial, my mom is white, my dad is black, and, I always had like the stereotypical like white girl frame. I got big boobs, flat butt, right? But but moving down here to the south, and I love it because of the cost of living, because of the weather. Like,
Mhm.
it's like 70 degrees right now. The trees are blooming,
Yeah.
but I feel weird. I'm very, very self-conscious about
Mhm.
my figure. Even when I was very much heavier, I weighed 100 pounds more. When you retire, you kind of are sedentary, then you gain weight, you eat,
Yeah.
you do much. So even I would still will wear tighter clothes because I didn't want to look bigger than I was. So
Mhm.
now I'm down to like a size 6. You met me, I'm not huge, but
Yeah.
I still have the feeling when I go by the mirror, I still smooth myself out and I look and I feel like I am like 300 and 400 pounds. And I
Mhm.
don't know where that comes from. And it drives me crazy. And
Yeah.
because then I'm doing laundry and I'm like, okay, girl, you ain't that big. But when I look in the mirror, I feel
Right.
like gargantuan.
Mhm.
And I'm like, is this something from like a past, like something that is just eating on me and I
Mhm.
cannot for the life of me figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just an odd thing or, one thing, but another thing is I'm always fixated on money.
Mhm.
Money is always like, I
Like
feel like
scarcity.
Scrooge McDuck. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like if I hear somebody got, and it's not even mine, so why should I care? But if I hear if somebody got like, oh, they got like $50,000 in the lotto, in my head, I'm like, okay, I would pay this bill, and this bill. Like I start
Right.
automatically spending the money in my head like it's mine.
Mhm.
You know,
Right. And that is part of our society too, the way, we've been kind of
like is that?
brainwashed to think.
But money is always like it's always there swirling around my head.
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
like, in a former life, was I like totally rich? You know what I mean? Or was like I just butt booty poor? Like, what was it? Why am I so fixated on these certain things? And then I'm like, well, I got no butt and I'm fixated on money. Was I a stripper? Like, what the hell? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna have to do a session to figure out if I was like
Sure.
swinging somewhere or something, girl. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, past life regression.
Mhm. Yeah, so yeah, and that work is not, it's not necessarily a quick fix. It's something
Mhm.
that it takes, at least a few sessions, if not more, because we're at like a tipping point of like there is so much backlog of karmic and ancestral healing that is required that it's not done in a quick fix. It's something that takes work and it takes some time. But even if it's a small percentage of people who are willing to do it and take the time, and kind of take on that burden, it ripples out across,
Mhm.
all space lines and timelines
Right,
throughout, living blood relatives as well as deceased.
right, right. And it's funny because, our society, as woo loosey goosey as we are still so repressed.
Oh yeah.
And so, oh, yeah. So, yeah. So you can even just see, like in Florida, how them talking about, the race relations and how they don't want people to feel bad about certain things. And it's just like if people just in general, accountability, taking
Mhm.
accountability for whatever it is and not pointing fingers at everybody else and not gaslighting and taking responsibility for your own bull caca, right?
Yeah, and really, I think a major piece that seems to be missing a lot is compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for your own ancestors and what they may have done,
Right.
what may have been done to them, and compassion for others,
Big time. Big time.
no matter what, because, no matter what side of the fence of whichever
Whatever.
story or
Right.
political or
Whatever. Right.
racial or whatever, religious, whatever.
You like
If
day, I
we
like night. It doesn't even matter. Like
if
whatever the
if we
difference is.
can't get past the labeling and if we can't look at each other with compassion, then we can't move forward.
You said a mouthful.
I'm
Oh
good at that.
my goodness. Oh my good no, that's really what it boils down to. These days, how many times, do you see somebody that's sitting on the street that's panhandling or laying down and people just kind of like walk over them, like step over them. You know what I mean? Instead of making sure they're okay, or I mean, just whatever the situation
Yeah.
is. It's just that we've been so conditioned to be in our own little bubble and put those blinders on that not having compassion for others part of that reason is because we don't have compassion for ourselves.
Right.
And, and that's why I said owning up to your own bull caca, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Whatever it is you've said, you've done, you
Right.
have in your life, if you can't be accountable for your own stuff, how are you going to be compassionate to somebody else when you
Mhm.
can't be to self?
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah,
Uh,
I look at the people who act out the most in anger or rage or,
right.
and anything like that, and
They're the ones that need the biggest hug, right?
yeah, yeah.
They need the
Right,
biggest
what
intervention.
did they personally go through,
To
or what
push.
did their ancestors personally go through to create what they are
That
now?
whole I agree. So one last thing that I wanna well, there are 2 things that I wanna talk to you about. I wanna ask one question, and then I want you to tell me about something that you do. So one thing I'm just curious about, have you ever heard of sweat lodges, and is that something you participate in, or do you know
I've
about, or
I've heard of them. I will be, participating in 1, if not 2, actually, this year. Um,
Awesome!
I've I've had interest for a long time, just
Mhm.
haven't had the,
Are there any
correct
up that
space
way?
or opportunity. I'm going on a retreat up in New Hampshire over
Oh,
Memorial Day weekend where there will be one.
okay.
And the trip that I was supposed to go on to, Peru last,
Mhm.
August, that I
Mm,
didn't end up being able to go on,
you would have had, yeah.
there would have been one there. I'm using the credit to go to Guatemala, and I think there's one, a closing sweat lodge purification ceremony associated with that, but I
I
don't
think
remember
there's
the
one,
details.
just FYI, if you stay stateside, there is one, I think, in Tennessee also.
Mhm. I'm
Uh,
sure excuse me, there are a few,
mhm.
across the country.
Right.
The ones that I'll be doing are a part of more of a deeper sort of,
Oh, they're like a whole program, a whole thing
yeah,
going
it's like a closing aspect to,
on.
a retreat, so to speak. Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. I
Mhm.
think that's pretty cool. I just figured to ask
Yeah,
because when you said that you practice shamanism, I'm like, okay, well, I know that sweat lodges are kind of in that somewhere. So I
right.
just ask because I
Yeah, no,
find it interesting. I've never been, but I'm curious to go.
yeah, and I'm sure if you do some research that you can find, reputable, facilitators and space holders for those. Yeah.
Right. I think it's on a like a small Native American reservation down
Mhm.
this way that
Mhm.
they hold it on. All right, pretty cool. All right, so the last thing I wanted to ask you about are your classes because I saw your hot cocoa.
Mhm.
And is that something you do just all the time, or was that just like a special one-time thing? And
So,
just a little
I
about your going
facilitate
time.
I facilitate cacao ceremonies, so it's ceremonial grade cacao, where it's a 2-hour ceremony. I do them seasonally, at the changing of the seasons, and, I'm holding space and facilitating, a lot of, the processing or kind of collective that's happening at the time. I
Right.
don't plan too far ahead. It's more of just what's
Mm,
going on at the moment that is
right,
going to
right.
be brought in.
Mhm.
So this past December, the autumn into winter cacao ceremony was a processing of grief. And people took a pretty deep dive into their personal grief. And so it was holding space to
Very
allow that to come through in
right.
a safe manner.
That's nice. I
Um,
like that.
yeah, so, I do them seasonally at Firing Farm in Portland, Connecticut.
Mhm.
I will start also doing them at the Center for Higher Living in Berlin. So, a different style of spaces, and that is one thing that I do. I also, collaborate with Firing Farm for a year-long herbal program. It's an introduction to herbalism using local plants, and it's,
So, like, you go foraging?
We do on the farm. We walk around and see what's growing every
Right.
month, so you can track the phenology and how the plants look in different seasons. And it's as much learning about the plants and how to work with them and sustainable and ethical ways, excuse
Mhm.
me, as it is about helping the students really trust in their own ability
Mm.
to do things on their own, and not worry so much about going and buying this last ingredient
All
or
the
making it
yeah,
perfect. It's
right,
really experiment and letting go and
right.
trusting in themselves. As a spinoff to that, we'll be offering I'm not sure. We haven't fully planned it out yet. It's either 4 or 6 months, kind of short course version of the introduction to the year long program. We'll also be meeting monthly, and it will be a weedy workshop series. So
Oh,
it's
I love it.
pulling out parts of that program, but
Right,
making it more accessible financially
right,
and not as much of a time commitment because
right.
it's just a
Like
season.
more of an
Yeah,
abridged
yeah.
version. I love it.
And since we wrote the whole year-long program, it's easier to pull pieces
Oh,
out.
yeah,
And then on
and you can even focus then. So you can pull different parts out and say, "Okay, well, this workshop is gonna be X amount of weeks, and it's only gonna focus on this part of the year long.
right,
And this is a
right,
smart cookie." I like
yeah.
that.
And, uh, we'll be doing other workshops. The one that I just did, was it this past Sunday even? It feels like so long ago. I think it was just this past Sunday. It was a chocolate workshop, which it was focused not on ceremonial cacao,
Mhm.
but chocolate.
That's
So
always a good topic.
yeah, we made two different chocolate products. We made a white chocolate bark, and we made
Oh,
chocolate bliss balls.
oh,
And I um, as I was telling the you know, people interested in on the informational session for the introduction to herbalism, um, like anything that I'm involved in, if I'm there, you're going to be doing a meditation or a journey or
right, it's
something
like
with
a
plant
whole
consciousness, plant, spirit
it's
energy.
Megan's a whole experience in a box, y'all.
Yeah, I do a lot more than just. I'm not just an art.
Right,
I
right,
am a creative, but I'm just so much more than just an
right,
artist.
right, you're a whole experience girl.
I am.
I love it.
So, anyway, everything involves some sort of plant meditation or journey.
Mhm,
And so after we made the chocolate products, um, we did a meditation to meet Theobroma cacao, the
mm,
chocolate tree,
right,
and connect with that consciousness and see what messages were there for us.
mm,
And then learned about, the chocolate making process from the tree to what, the product in the
right,
store,
right,
how to
right,
read labeling because there's a lot of misinformation and what to look for
fine
on.
print,
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily fine print. It's that some things are marketed in a way because they're buzzwords.
that's what yeah,
Yeah,
they don't
but
really mean
really,
what they really mean.
yeah, understanding what that really means. And then we did a bean to bar tasting too. So chocolate beans, very good quality, good chocolate.
Right.
Yeah, and tried a few different companies and
Oh, wow.
different. And so it was really nice. Um so I will be doing that again at some point. We don't have a date scheduled, but there was a lot of interest and people had a lot of conflicting things going on that they couldn't make it. So that
Right,
will probably be maybe semi-annual or,
right,
an
right.
annual offering sort of thing.
You know what
Um,
I love is that you have taken your one passion and pivoted with it. You kind of, like, took that one theme and just kinda went like this with it.
yeah.
I love that because that's what I always tell small businesses to do, you gotta diversify.
Oh, yeah.
Love that you're all over. I mean, you're following your heart and your soul's
Mhm.
journey, but in that, you're just reaching out there, like you said, those different threads, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you're pulling them and throwing them out there, and I love that you're spider webbing into all those different directions, but it's all still the same out of the same foundation,
Oh, yeah, I have
you
an
know?
insatiable curiosity, and, I kinda look at some other people who they get really focused and they do something and not to say what they're doing isn't good because they
Right,
create something really, really beautiful, and
right.
I personally feel a little bit of jealousy. It's like, "Wow, they're doing this
How do they do
really
that? Right,
beautiful, specific thing,"
right.
and I kinda feel like sometimes I'm all over the place, but it's also I have such an insatiable curiosity, I'm not really all over the place because
You're not.
it
It's
all
all
blends
in
together.
line.
Like,
It's
my
all
cacao
in
ceremonies bring in so many different elements from teachings and learnings and readings that
it
they
all
just
has
come
to do
together.
with the soul and energy, though, all of it.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
I see it even though from chocolate to, walking, finding bones, which we need to see some of your babies over there.
Yes.
Um, but it's all along the same path, and even though you might, stray out a little bit, all paths lead back to
Mhm.
that same main thread. So, I know that you got a baby for Christmas. You said your mom got you a baby.
Yeah.
I personally named him Fred. I
Yeah.
named him I
No,
don't know what you named him, but I named him Fred.
I think I think he might be Fred, and it is a he. Yeah, so
Is
this
it? Okay.
I get backwards with this. Yeah, there we go.
I love it. So you said this is not your first skull,
So,
though,
I have, a lot of plastic and,
like resin cast site?
and no, just stuff you get at, the craft store
Oh,
for
mhm.
Halloween. They're all over the house.
Your babies.
This one is actually I get really confused with this.
Mhm.
This is actually a scientific,
Right,
store sort of,
right,
like,
right.
could be used in the classroom grade. So it is a cast resin of a male, human skull.
That is pretty cool, but you go walking out in the woods and you find stuff.
Yeah, you can see.
With his little head, his little cranium. I
Yeah.
love it.
I
Awesome.
do. So I walk out in the woods and, I just it's not even walking out in the woods, it's at job sites. Um,
Oh, you
since
mean like where they're doing construction and stuff if they're churning
yeah,
lumber?
'cause I ended up in environmental consulting. Um,
Oh,
the bones, they find me. So I have, well, we were talking about having this real like, as an artist, people think of you as artsy fartsy.
right.
I don't
Oh, you use my
I
word too? Oh my god, artsy fartsy is my word. Oh my god, we're soul sisters. I'm telling you, we think the same exact way. Oh my god, that's so funny.
but
Okay,
people like I am, I don't give off that sort of flighty artist,
not at all.
personality
Flaky,
and very, like, business
grounded.
minded, like,
Mhm,
sort of, focused,
right.
but yeah, since I studied taphonomic zooarchaeology for my master's degree, and taphonomy is the study of how things break down after they've been discarded until they're found again. So this could be bioturbation, as acidic conditions in the soil, alkaline
Right.
conditions in the
Whatever
soil,
breaks down the
rain,
right,
microbes in the
right.
soil,
Mhm.
rodent gnawing,
And depending on where you are in the country, the conditions are gonna be different
very different.
down.
So if you're in the rainforest, like tropical rainforest,
Mhm.
there's no preservation.
Right, it's gonna
Um,
just disintegrate and just be eaten up. Right.
right, and up here in the New England area with the acidic conditions, you can get fossil footprints, but that's why we have dinosaur footprints, but we don't have dinosaur bones. We don't
Bones.
have the appropriate conditions for that preservation. Um,
But when they go out to, like, the Grand Canyon, and then you see the striations of the different levels of the Earth, and then you can see how those fossils are more preserved because it's
mhm,
drier conditions, they're
right.
not rotted out from the moisture,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. So at about that time, I started having crystals and bones just started finding me. I didn't find them. I just, I looked down at, like,
Right.
literally looked down at my feet, and there it was. It's not like I was
What
out.
kind of things have you found?
So, one of the first stone that I found that I brought home, I looked down at my feet, and it was
Oh,
just laying there at my feet.
what is that?
It's a quartz crystal.
Oh, and that was just laying at your feet?
Yeah.
People's like go panning and digging and
Yes. Yeah. And then we want to see.
Okay, now she's the crystal whisperer too.
All right, I have a lot of bones over here. So,
Crystals and bones.
just bring a few over.
No problem.
This one is an otter.
Otters are in Connecticut?
River otters are in Connecticut. And this is from my master's thesis project. So I've had this otter since
So
college.
what did you do with him for your thesis?
I had 4 of them that we received under a permit from the state of Connecticut. And trappers had gotten them, I think. And so I defleshed 2 of them and left 2 of them fleshed, and I buried them in the ground for a few months, and then dug them up and cleaned off what was still residual on the 2.
Right.
And I cut the bone and put it under thin sections to look for microbial attack on bone. It was
You went super scientific on it. Holy
yeah, and it was intended to be written for a scientific publication, but the coyotes got involved, and there were just a lot of things that
variables.
unexpectedly could not be
Variables.
controlled. So it didn't end up being that. There was no difference in microbial, and there was no microbial attack on either of the types.
Right.
But
There was coyote attack on it.
yeah. So this is we called them the Otts. So,
The ox. Oh,
very affectionately.
that is pretty cool.
And then, I went to a Gem and Crystal show, the East Coast Exposition, East Coast States Exposition. It's where the Big E is.
Yep.
And they have a really big Gem and Crystal show in August over a weekend. So I've gone there a few times, and years ago we went, and I didn't come home with rocks and gems. I came home with a coyote, which is the painting I showed you earlier.
Yes.
This one is rather special to me because this was a very old coyote. You can see all the osteoarthritis, but I said to my husband, I said, "Oh, this coyote, this is the most interesting specimen here because he had an abscess tooth. Severe osteoarthritis." And I said all these things, and he's like, "You don't know what you're talking about." Well, the booth owner came over and said, "Oh, you picked up the best one. This one has an abscess tooth and osteoarthritis." It was like verbatim what I said.
Girl power, girl power.
Yeah,
I love it.
That one's very special to me.
I love it. And you did a fabulous. That's what's on her logo, y'all, right here.
Yes, that is my logo.
Is
and
the coyote skull. Yes.
That is the Datura coyote.
Beautiful. And again, that's watercolor. Gorgeous.
Yeah, and just poisonous plants and plants in general, I whisper with them too. And so Datura is a poisonous plant that has that combination. And this one has limited edition prints, and it says, "When you welcome in Datura and the trickster coyote, how might you be able to transform into your authentic self? Will you listen to their guidance and learn to speak your truth? Come, sit and talk with Datura and coyote for a spell. The tales they could tell, they just might change your whole perspective on life."
Oh, I love it.
And here's a little, wee little rabbit. Fits in this teacup.
Oh my gosh!
This one, when I do, I'm trying to find the camera here, sorry.
Oh, it's so teeny.
This one will
Was it a
be,
baby?
it was juvenile, not a baby. The bones
I
have
wouldn't
started
think a
to fuse
rabbit is that
together.
teeny weeny.
Yeah, the bones have started to fuse together, so it's,
Mhm.
juvenile.
Right.
Um, yeah, and this one will be with Violet when I do,
So, how did you find this one?
my neighbor's cat.
Oh.
Yeah, I went and,
Okay, that was easy.
yeah, this is one that I processed myself, with the fur and everything.
Oh, wow, so you do the whole thing of the stripping.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you okay, this is kinda gross, but do you, like, boil it like, Basic Instinct type to get the stuff off of it?
You wanna remove as much of the flesh
Just
as possible and the fur before, yeah, we don't wanna do that. We you want This is more of an honoring of the animal.
come on, here's the title of the show, Megan goes Basic Instinct with the
So you wanna remove as much of the you wanna
fluff.
remove the
Yeah,
fur and, as much of the
flesh.
flesh as
Mhm,
possible,
right,
and the boiling stage is more for any residual
stuff,
stuff.
little bits to
Yeah, and you don't wanna do a full boil,
yeah,
because a
just to
full boil
soften
would be
it
too
up
much.
and just
Yeah,
take it off, right?
yeah, yeah, scalpel is really handy,
Yeah,
I used a scalpel a lot, a lot of
to
scalpels
kinda
for
scrape
the
the little
otters, and
right.
it really helped a lot, and, I finally broke down and bought another, scalpel set because trying to use it just wasn't working as well with what I had. It really is one of the best tools. I'll show you something else I processed. A coworker of mine.
Now, I think as far as I've gotten with anything like that was like Mr. Randall's ninth grade science class when we had to dissect, the frogs,
Yeah.
and I dissected, I think, the brain with the two little eyeballs attached still with the retinal cord. I was good with the scalpel, but I haven't gotten down to the nitty-gritty like you.
Yeah, so a coworker of mine used to raise he moved away and doesn't is not a coworker anymore, but
Mhm.
he raised, sheep.
Oh,
And, I couple of times bought, like, half a sheep, and put it in the freezer, to cook lamb.
right, right,
But, anyway, he used to cut the head in half if whomever wanted to make sheep brain soup or something. I'm pretty adventurous, but I didn't quite
I'm not that adventurous.
I'm not that adventurous. So I got a whole head, and I didn't eat any
I'll
of the
just take half.
insides, but this was yeah, I processed this, picked out, the
Look how
brains
big
and
those eye cavities are.
yeah,
Wow. And we always think the sheep have those big old eyes, and now look how giant the cavities are. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
So, but, this is just a small
Yes, I'm
fraction
sure you've
of
got a
what I have.
collection.
They find me, and, I pick them up, and, um I honor them.
Right,
I clean them. I help the spirit cross over, if it hasn't yet,
right,
and I let them tell me, or I let the plant tell me
right.
how they want to be paired,
Wonderful.
how they want to be honored, and so I put them together. I have, I think, 7 paintings or maybe 8 with, an animal, skull or exoskeleton and a
Right,
plant,
right. That
and
has
they all have messages, um, and I think eventually it'll be an oracle deck.
ooh.
I fought that for a very long time because I
Ooh.
didn't like I don't like the need, like that external seeking, the need to have tools to spend money, to have tools, like, you have all the information you need. I do divination. I practice divination just in nature. I don't really
Right,
use tools, so it was hard for me to want to do something just
right.
because people want it as opposed
To feeling, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I finally, after doing, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these paintings, a shamanic practitioner that I see,
Mhm,
um convinced me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
mhm.
I've shifted. I'm more focused on doing these paintings again as opposed to, any of the ones that are coming
Or
through at the
come
moment. Yeah.
well, okay, so that's one of the problems that I struggled with as an artist is, I wanna paint what I wanna paint.
Yeah.
I don't wanna paint your ugly kid or, you know what I mean, your motorcycle or
Mhm.
your landscape.
Right.
I can, but that's not what does it for me. I wanna paint what my heart and my soul tells me, you know what I mean, I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
And so, I used to struggle with that, and so I do like that you're keeping to your true
And
your
I
true
do
self.
commissions,
No, I understand, but I
but
mean,
the
you're
commissions, they're still along the same theme,
mhm,
and, people allow for my own interpretation,
that's
as
that's
opposed
key.
to like a specific paint this picture sort of thing.
That's what I mean. Here's a
Yeah.
picture of your kid. I want it to be like, a realistic picture as opposed to being like a Picasso where you've got them like, whatever,
Yes.
people want what they want. And so I do like that you keep with your own self-expression, even though you do the commissions. So Megan, if anybody wants to contact you,
Mhm.
if they're interested
Yeah.
in some of your workshops, maybe of some of your, your cacao ceremonies or anything like that, or even the beautiful art that you have, where can they contact you at?
So, go to my website, www.herbalbonesart.com,
Mhm.
and on there you can find all the various original watercolors that are available for sale, prints, blank greeting cards. I have a couple of ritualistic sort of offerings, anointing bombs, and smudge bundles.
Mhm.
And let's see what else is on there. So all of my products are on there. I also have an upcoming events page that lists out when all the different things are happening, whether it's an art show or a gallery showing
Right, because I
or a
do see
pop-up
you putting
market.
your stuff up in the different, like, coffee shops and
Yeah,
markets stuff where on the wall, so y'all,
yeah.
she is all over
Thank
that
you.
Connecticut
Yeah.
area. I
And
love
then
it.
also, I'm on if you go to that website, there are
Right,
links to both Instagram and Facebook.
right.
Instagram is at herbal_bones_art. Facebook is at Herbal Bones Art Wellness
Yes.
LLC or something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but you'll see the logo, so you know it's
Yes,
me.
you'll see the coyote
Rosemary.
with the rosemary. Yes, 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 yes.
Um, so that's yeah, and then I have a very special secret thing I've been working on for a few months that I'll
Oh,
be releasing next Friday. So
oh, y'all stay tuned. Megan's got surprises. I told you, y'all, she was a whole experience, right? So, so you are the crystal whisperer because you've got crystals. You
Mhm.
are the bone whisperer, and you were whispering something else here. Bones, crystals. You were, I
The
mentioned
dead.
and the who and the dead
The dead.
whisperer.
I don't know. I mean, I help them.
A
That
ghost,
is something that
definitely a ghost whisperer, my girl.
yeah,
Definitely.
it is something that I help, I call it instead of a clearing, a healing, houses that, you feel
Right.
like something's there and it needs
And you're not
some help.
sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. I absolutely love it. Megan, you have been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Like I said, Who would have known when we met a few months ago,
Right.
we'd be chopping it up now, right?
Yeah.
Seeing your bones, girl. Now I'm
Thank you
not
so
seeing your
much.
bones. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining us
you.
on What's Poppin USA, and we will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.